Alright, y'all, I'm just gonna say it. I don't think that Dragon Ball Super is going to come back. Dragon Ball Super is not going to come back. I'm so sorry. I mean, maybe it will come back. Maybe it will come back. I think the manga is going to continue, but I don't think Dragon Ball Super is going to get animated. I keep seeing comments all over the internet saying, man, when the Moro arc comes back, I hope it gets animated like this fight. Referring to Super Saiyan 4 versus Goma, which was freaking awesome, by the way. But, like, y'all, we gotta rip the band-aid off now. We have to rip the band-aid off. I'm not doing this out of hate or spite. I'm doing this out of love for the Dragon Ball community. If it doesn't happen, which there's like a high chance that it won't happen, I would love to be wrong. I hope that I'm wrong. If the Moro arc does get animated, it's going to take a long time. I think that the reason why Dragon Ball DAIMA is written the way it is because Dragon Ball Super's rights are in serious question right now due to the legal dispute between Shueisha and Akio. And for those not in the know, Shueisha basically owns the rights for the Dragon Ball Super manga, and Akio's company, Capsule Corporation Tokyo, owns the rights to the animation stuff. So what this essentially means is that we have one corporation that owns the Dragon Ball Super manga, and we have another corporation that owns the rights to Dragon Ball's animation. So if we boil it down, this means that until this can get resolved, we're not going to see the Moro arc get animated because they don't have the rights to it. It's as simple as that. Until they can get the rights to animate the Moro arc, it's not going to happen. And we don't know how long it could take for that to happen. I mean, it could happen within this year, this getting settled, or it could take 10 years for them to resolve this. Now, hopefully this happens quicker than later, but we don't know. So it might happen eventually, but I would not count on it happening anytime soon. You might end up watching the Moro arc with your grandkids after GTA 6 comes out. Maybe not though. But I want to explain here how this ties into Dragon Ball DAIMA. Dragon Ball DAIMA is essentially a soft reboot of Super. We see a lot of things be changed in Dragon Ball DAIMA, like the unfusing of the Kais. They make it a point to mention that they used Majin Buu's gas to unfuse, and not the Dragon Balls. If that's not them directly trying to state that something is up with the continuity, then I don't know what is. I don't think that's a simple retcon for retcon's sake. Why would they do that? They're trying to hint towards something. And then we see Vegeta use Super Saiyan 3. Goku uses Super Saiyan 4. And in the latest episode, we see that he can access it at will. And people are like, oh, well, Neva's gonna wipe their memories. They're gonna get their memories wiped. No, let's cope. I don't think that's what's gonna happen. I think they're rebooting Dragon Ball Super. I don't know why they're rebooting Dragon Ball Super. I only brought that stuff up earlier because it could be a big hint towards why they're rebooting Dragon Ball Super. I mean, clearly they have the right to use Gowasu in their work, but it should be noted that Dragon Ball DAIMA was developed between 2020 and 2024, so they weren't necessarily disputing who owns what when this happened. And I mean, like I said, Akio and his production studio should own the rights to the Dragon Ball Super anime. So I don't know necessarily, I don't think they would get rid of Dragon Ball Super because they don't own the rights to it. I think they do. I think they're just rebooting it because they want to. But I think this does tie into the future of Dragon Ball. We're more likely to see a sequel to Dragon Ball DAIMA than we are to Dragon Ball Super. I think they might be waiting to figure this whole situation out, who owns what, before they continue the development of Dragon Ball Super. That is the role that Dragon Ball DAIMA serves in the Super continuity. And this is pretty much my whole theory about Super. But y'all need to stop trying to say DAIMA's non-canon. At this point, it's more likely that Super's non-canon. Like, You know how the Super anime made stuff from the movies non-canon? Yeah, Dragon Ball Daima does that to Super. There's just parts of Super right now that are just non-canon because of Daima. So first we had Battle of Gods and Resurrection of F. And then Dragon Ball Super anime came along and made that non-canon. And then the movies came along, and the canon of the movies took precedent over the anime. And now we have Dragon Ball Daima, which conflicts with the Dragon Ball Super continuity. If Dragon Ball Daima is canon, then Dragon Ball Super might as well be GT. It might as well be Dragon Ball GT.
Hello? Where is everybody? I'm the only brain cell left. Well, at least I have my book.
Dragon Ball Super Manga.
No, that's not fair. That's not fair. There was time now. Oh, it's not fair. Oh.
So, since I'm the one that broke the news to Mango that Super isn't coming back anytime soon, I thought it was only fair for me to have my own section in the video. Now, let me set the scene. Back in 2019, I remember watching a YouTube video from some Dragon Ball YouTuber, like Geekdom 101 or Masako X, about the Moro Saga. And at a certain point in the video, as just a throwaway aside, they said something along the lines of, it might not get animated. And I was in pure denial when I first heard this, but they backed up their statement with a few good points. And so, I just kept this little nugget of knowledge in the back of my mind, and over time, kind of convinced myself, okay, the Moro Saga isn't getting animated. Now, jump forward to 2021, and I'm meeting up with an old friend from high school. They look at me and say, hey, have you read the Moro arc? I can't wait for it to be animated. And a pit just formed in my stomach, knowing that I had to break the news to them that it's not coming back. It was like popping a child's balloon. They too denied it and said, no, it's coming back eventually. But when I met up with them a few months later, they had come to the same conclusion and realized, it's not happening. Fast forward again, the year is now 2023, and I meet Mango. One of the first things we bonded over when we first met was our shared love for all things Dragon Ball. One day we're out for a walk, talking about Dragon Ball as we like to do, and they look over me and say, yeah, I love the Moro arc. I can't wait for it to get animated. So, once again, I had to be the bearer of bad news. And, once again, I received denial. But now, as you can see in the modern day, Mango is making a video about Dragon Ball Super not coming back. So eventually they came to see things the way that I do. If you asked me back in 2020, do you think the Moro Saga will ever get animated? I would have flat out said no. But it's 2025. Times have changed.
They made Super Saiyan 4 canon, so really anything is possible.
I think the Moro Saga will get animated eventually, but for the foreseeable future, Dragon Ball Daima is all we have. And honestly, I'm fine with that. I think now is the time for the people who are in control of Dragon Ball to huddle up, get things figured out, and come back with a new anime or movie in a few years after everything is settled down. That's all I gotta say though. I'm passing it back to Mango. Thanks.
Do I think that the Moro Saga will get adapted? Yes. Do I think that Dragon Ball Super will come back? Yes. Will it come back soon? No. Not a chance in Otherworld. While the future of Dragon Ball Super is pretty uncertain, I think Dragon Ball Daima is genuinely the best arc in Dragon Ball we've gotten in a long time. I feel like, unlike Dragon Ball GT and Dragon Ball Super, which had a lot of cool ideas and elements and characters added to it, Dragon Ball Daima is the first one, other than the movies of course, they're great, to actually pull this off and make a true continuation that is on par with the quality of the rest of Dragon Ball. And I think they're going to, if they bring Super back, and when that does happen, I think they're going to use Dragon Ball Daima to do a soft reset of the universe and fix up any problems with Super that they didn't like. So it isn't really the case that Dragon Ball Daima isn't canon to Super. It's more like Dragon Ball Super isn't canon to Dragon Ball Daima. That's what it's looking like more and more. with every episode. I don't think that they're going to scrap Dragon Ball Super entirely. I don't think that's what they're trying to do with Dragon Ball Daima. I don't think they would just throw everything away, and it seems like they want to adapt the Moro Saga eventually. It just really seems like Dragon Ball Daima is aiming to do a soft reboot of the Dragon Ball Super universe, and if you go back and watch Super, I would just not treat its canon very seriously. I think whatever Dragon Ball Daima has to say about it takes precedent over Super from what we've seen with how these projects sort of go. And I do think that the manga will come back and get adapted eventually, but it's going to take a long time. So I think Dragon Ball Daima and whatever sequel we get to it is probably what we're going to get for now. And I'm personally fine with that. We got Super Saiyan 4, baby! Super Saiyan 4! I apologize for my voice, by the way. I know I sound a little bit monotone. I'm just under the weather. If you like the channel and the work that I do, please consider checking out my Ko-fi and donating to help me avoid going homeless. Alright, thank you so much. Have a good one.